We are live. Yay! Hello, 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 and welcome to another CCS Alumni Live. This is a weekly ish series where we chat with CCS alumni about their journey from high school to career. And today we have an amazing guest who I will add to the live shortly. I see our guest is here. So I'm really excited for today's conversation, especially for those of you who may be interested in interior design. So our guest today is Vanessa Peterson, and Vanessa was born in Miami, Florida, where she attended Dash, which is Design and Architecture Senior High School. She studied interior design at CCS before graduating in 2010. Vanessa has worked as an advanced color and materials designer for FCA, or Fiat Chrysler Automotive, in Auburn Hills, Michigan, before relocating to California. So jealous, take me with you. And she's there where she currently works as a color design manager for PPG. And this is a job that she does where she produces and forecasts global color trends. So without further ado, I am going to add our guest, our amazing color materials guru, to the live. Vanessa!
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Oh my God, Brandy, it's been so long. It's
I
so
know
good to
it's been
see
so
you.
long.
Oh
Oh,
my
and you're
goodness.
stunning as you were forever ago.
Same, same. Oh my God, your makeup, the hair, everything. Love.
Oh,
Oh, it's so
so
good
good
to
to
talk to
see you.
you.
Yeah, I'm excited to chat with you and have our guests be part of the conversation today
Hmm.
about your career and your journey, really, from high school to career. So, before we start off in the journey, right? Before we start asking you a bunch of questions, I want to let folks know who are tuning in, because it looks like folks are tuning in now. If you have questions about interior design, about trend forecasting for color materials, being a CCS student or being a CCS alum, make sure you drop those questions in the question box at the bottom of your Instagram screen, because Vanessa will be able to answer those live. All right,
Yes.
so let's get into it. So first off, it's interesting because you are an interior design graduate, but not traditionally what people would think of as an interior designer, right? And
Hmm.
so I know a lot of students who I talk to who are in high school, they think of like what they see on HGTV as the only thing that interior designers do. And so I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about, in your own words, what the field of interior design is, so they can see it's a little broad.
Yeah, it's a very broad avenue. I mean, there's so many different aspects to interior design as far as whether you're going residential, you're going commercial. I know some of our alumni who even do like set design. They've done things for Broadway, they've done things for conventions and shows, and even leading into a lot of different alumni who end up going into the automotive industry, which is kind of a big deal in Michigan. So for me, when I first walked into interior design, as many people, like you said, assume it's like, oh, it's HGTV, it's surprise, everything's done, everything gets cleared out, and all of a sudden you have this magnificent fixer-upper makeover. And of course, that is like the bread of interior design, but there's so many different aspects to it. You have areas of material design, you have surface design, you have interior, exterior. You have the ability to go into any type of design field with the intention to shift the way an interior looks, regardless if it's a house or not. It can even lend itself to, parks or even outdoor
I didn't
landscaping.
even
There's
think
so many
about
different
that.
avenues that it can go into with that understanding of how your design affects human interaction, because what you're designing is literally something someone is either going to live in, or they're going to interact with, or it's going to be surrounded by. So it's really important. That whole aspect of interior design is just the ability to be able to get into those different steps and understand that it could be lended so many different avenues. So I've definitely have jumped to many different avenues. And
Tell us, and that's wonderful. I didn't even think about like park, like who works on it's any space that people interact with, right? Whether they're inside or outside. So that's amazing. Tell us a little bit about some of the different interior design work you've done in your career thus far.
hmm So I originally started off in fashion design when I was in high school. And to me, my one of my biggest struggles was always like, oh, I never figured out the right type of fabrics to use, or I never understood what fabrics did what. So when I was looking for a career, I was really fascinated by the idea of materials being used within an interior design field, because there's fabric and different materials that you'd have to know so well what they do, how they react to things, are they safe, so forth and so on. There's a huge knowledge within what materials can do. So for
Mm-hmm.
me, when I was stepping into that idea of what interior design is, I felt like I was stepping into an avenue of really being able to learn how materials can shift a space. So to me, the focus was color, the focus was material, and how do those two work to create a space. And that's what I learned when I was at CCS, when I was in the interior design department, taking all of that and making a space function to its fullest potential with those two main components. Obviously, there's way more, but for me, that's where my focus was. So when I graduated CCS, I was kind of like, I don't know if like I want to really jump in, if I'm being completely honest, if I really want to jump into like an interior design job, because I love it. I love the idea of it, but I don't know if that is where my heart is fully
Mm-hmm.
for the two things that I'm really in love with as
Yep.
part of the interior design. There's a lot of math that goes into interior design. There's a lot of engineering knowledge. There's a lot that goes into it that can be a little overwhelming, and that was my biggest struggle. I was like, oh my God, this is overwhelming. It's intense. So when I found the avenue of being able to do car interiors, I was like, hold up. I'm like, wait, that's a job? You can do that? I'm like, that's a thing. And I started to research what that was, what that looked like. And it was so similar to interior design, everything that we learned, except for the interior of a car. You're still
Mm-hmm.
looking at rugs, carpeting.
Mm-hmm.
You're still looking at fabrics, upholstery. You're still looking at different surfaces, woods, plastic, finishes. Like it was pretty much the exact same carryover. So when I got the job at FCA, working as the advanced color and materials designer, with that team, it was overwhelming because it was the two passions that I was looking at. It was color design and it was material design. And it was such a vast, like, it was just a crazy experience to see everything that I had learned in school for a specific subject in regards to commercial and residential transfer itself over to something like an automotive interior. And, once I relocated to California with my now husband, and the one thing going back to why I wanted to even join interior design, because my lack of knowledge with materials, I realized in my job at FCA, didn't have that huge a knowledge of colors, like what is really color, like the crazy idea of what color is and how it can be used and the way it can be manipulated into so many different hues, shades, saturation. It didn't make sense to me. My boss at FCA once told me, she was like, I need you to go to Home Depot. I need you to get me 4 different color grays. I was like, okay, cool. I got you. No worries. Went to Home Depot. I stood in front of those paint panel samples like I had just lost my entire life. I was like, how many grays are there? I'm like, wait, does she want
Yeah.
a cool gray? Does she want a warm gray? Like all this stuff. So then that transfer, when I came to California, I found a job that was specifically color related. Like, how well can you know color, and how well can you describe color to people, and how can you help them create color? And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So all that to say, to answer your question, which that was like a 3-minute long answer. I'm
It's an amazing
sorry.
answer.
I'm sorry. But for me, like going into those different avenues, knowing my interior design knowledge, like set me up to keep pushing and exploring those different aspects of interior design that one, I never thought would ever be jobs outside of it. So it's been a crazy adventure, but one that I'm extremely grateful for.
It sounds like it's been an amazing adventure. So tell me this, because I know I have very limited knowledge about the interior design field. And so I use color design and material design is the same thing, like color and materials design. And I know currently you are doing forecasting for
Mm-hmm.
global color trends. What does the day-to-day work look like of somebody who's forecasting trends? Like, I'm like, my brain breaks trying to like understand what that means.
So honestly, it comes down to the basic instinct of how things are perceived by the human eye and how that in turns affect someone's psyche. Everything that we're attracted to as a human being is a result of how that thing affects us from an emotional, a mental, and a physical standpoint. So if you want to take right now our current events that are happening, we're in the middle of a global pandemic. We are in the middle of a race war. There are demonstrations and protests happening not only in North America, but all around the world. You can't look at society right now and say everyone is happy-go-lucky and the most positive that they've ever been in their entire life. No matter where you land on the spectrum, something's happening that's not including full positivity. So if you want to just look at that and see that, you in turn realize, based off all that research, that maybe in this day and age, maybe right now, people are not going to be all about the neons, the brights, and like the bold poppy colors, because that's not what they're feeling. So what you're starting to see is a lot of grays and neutral tones. We're starting to get into more of these earthy midtones that remind people of a more balanced, grounded, foundational type of aspect. A lot of green, nature.
I was gonna say, you're giving that vibe right now, the natural Dallas vibe.
Yes, we're in a process of releasing colors that allow people to understand that even with all the craziness and chaos going on in the world, that there are things out there that can inspire you into a place back of wellness. And when we're able to do that by the use of color, we're igniting that emotion in someone's mind that's taking them from a place of like, my world is crazy, all I see is black and gray. And maybe we can push them into a place of optimism and say like, we're not going to give you the bright neon poppy colors because we know that's not what you're feeling. But here's the color tone family that's going to bring you back into a place of relaxation, into some mindfulness, into some calm, because it's going to remind you of either being in nature or being, being at the beach or being even back home in grandma's house. We're going to release to you colors that are pulling those things out of your psyche to give you that sense of peace that you're probably not feeling right now because of how crazy the world is. So ultimately, when we're deciding color trends, when we're deciding color families, we're looking into what people are feeling. Because like I said at the beginning, ultimately, if someone's not feeling something and they're not relating to it and it doesn't make sense to them, they're not going to walk into Target and buy it. They're not going to go to the dealership and buy it because it's going to be so unrelated to their emotions. And people buy off their emotions. It's consumerism. So we have to be able to hit those trends. We have to be able to hit those different things and say, this is what's going on in the world. Here are the facts. And here's hopefully from a creative perspective, how color can help you. Wow. So that's what I do.
I'm gonna put that in my back pocket. I'm like, dang, I'm gonna get color materials. That's amazing. So it sounds like a combination, like that research sounds like a combination of understanding psychology, perception, marketing. Like I feel like there are a lot of elements that go into combining that insight about the human condition and behaviors and what influences people to buy with that creativity, right? With that choosing the colors and like you said, being in front of that wall at Home Depot and finding what hues actually solve that problem. Yeah. That's really amazing.
Yeah, and it even goes down to like the science of just going back to interior design. No interior designer or architect is ever going to build a space and add colors to it that are ever going to cause opposing emotions to what that facility was made for. You're never going to walk into a hospital and walk into a red room. It's never going to happen. I've never seen it to this day unless it's like a Red Cross logo. But you're never going to walk into a red room. You're never going to walk into a hotel that's literally like crazy, like intense, like highlighted colors that you're just like, oh my God, unless you're walking into a Nickelodeon hotel. You're going to walk into a hotel and they're going to make you want to feel like you're soothed, you're calm. I'm just walking into a spa. Like I just walked into like a materialized nature. So it's just like even down to that science of like understanding how colors affect people from a visual standpoint. Like it's so psychological, and some people don't know that, but there's a whole science behind how color affects people.
That's amazing. I know about color theory because it's like a design concepts thing, but this just brings so much more language and life to it. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So being that you've done a lot of different things in interior design and in the color and material space, what would you say has been your favorite project to work on in your career?
So color trending has definitely been like my favorite. And the reason why I say that, I learned a lot at FCA and I got to work on some amazing projects. And the design teams within FCA are like, they're phenomenal people and it's one of the best creative teams I've ever worked with. But my time there was short. So while I got to assist on many projects, I didn't really get to like have a full project to myself, which isn't really how the design field works anyway. But when I entered into my job at PPG and we got to go into these global color trend forecast meetings, and I got to learn everything that I just explained to you about how colors affect people to that extent, how we can help these like billion-dollar companies produce the colors that they put on their products by inspiring them with these color stories and these color themes. That to me was one of the best experiences I've ever had. And being able to take that project. So for example, 2 years ago, we released it will be the 2019 color stories of the year along with the color of the year. You know, we compete a lot with Pantone. That's one of our biggest competitors for that story. And we assembled photo shoots. We got to hire models. We got to do these great photo shoots, these great videos. We got to put on this full production to bring these color stories to life. And then once all of that was said and done, I got to travel the world. I literally got to go to Europe. I got to go all around North America. We got our counterparts all over Asia. And we literally got to go to all of these big tech companies that we wear every day and present to their designers and be like, this is what colors are trending. Here's what you should be looking out for. And for me, being from a design high school and being in college and they train you your entire life to set you up for that one moment, I was like,
Like,
oh
this
my
is
God,
it.
it's finally happening. I'm in front of like all of these individuals and I'm doing what I was taught to do. And it was
Yeah.
at that moment that I had that first like epiphany and I was like, this is probably the best moment of my career right now, is being in front of these individuals, these high like up individuals who decide everything that we literally wear, like, and be able to tell them like, here are colors you need to look out for. And then to see those colors on products like a year later, I'm just like,
Like, I was part of that. That's me. That's so
yeah, like I
awesome.
love walking into Best Buy and Target and being like, we did that.
That's amazing.
Thank
So you're
you.
a trendsetter in all facets of the word, right? With the color material trends. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
so right now, my team, specifically the team that I lead up in paint development for color trending, is I lead the team that's specific to electronic materials. So we work with all the big tech companies around the world and we work with their CMF designers and help them get the colors that they want for their products.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
why you're like electronics.
Oh.
That's so cool. So let's do a little bit of time traveling because you've talked
Okay.
and told us a lot about your amazing career. I know you mentioned that you were in fashion in high school. So what
Mm-hmm.
made you transition from fashion? You talked actually a little bit about that. Transitioning from fashion to interior was to get a better understanding of the color and materials that were
Mm-hmm.
used in that space. Um, were you applying for both fashion and interior design programs when you were in high school?
I was. So obviously, I want to say obviously. So when you're trying to get into interior design, New York and London are the two best cities for schools, hands down. The three top schools for fashion design exist within New York and London. It's Central St. Martin's, FIT, and Parsons. And I've had many of my friends from high school who have attended those schools, and it's amazing. But I think for me, when I was really thinking about what I wanted my future to look like, fashion not only is one of the most competitive markets in the world, it's also one that you must dedicate every ounce of your being to. There takes a lot of commitment, there takes a lot of time and energy. And for me, when I was thinking about that and, watching documentaries on Alexander McQueen and John Galliano, like people that I looked up to, and I saw how passionate, how consumed they were by the idea of fashion, I knew deep down in my heart that I did not love fashion enough. And that was not where my heart and mind would be enough for me to push to that extent that my heroes were pushing.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't there. Like, I loved it. And I think I was able to produce collections in high school that I was really proud of, that, I like, people would see and be like, wow, you're really great. You should really pursue this. And I'll be like, yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for the inspiration. But in my heart and in my mind, I knew I was just like, the thought of even going to New York, I was just like, God, I really don't want to live in New York. Like, I can't, like, I'm not that hustle and bustle person. Like, I work hard, don't get me wrong, and I strive for what I want, but New York just was never a place where I was like, I'm going to live there, I'm going to crush it, I'm going to love every aspect of it. I never had that mentality. And yeah, I was like, I'm not going across seas. I can barely leave, like, across country. I'm not going across seas. I'm too family oriented for that. But again, had it been something I was passionate for and I wanted to be the end all be all of my life, I would have done it. But anyway, all that to say, my heart wasn't there for fashion design as much as I loved it as like a hobby or something that I enjoyed doing. So when I was looking at career options and I was looking at where I wanted to go, CCS came up. I had a couple of friends who had gone to CCS, and I had met Sabrina Nelson, who is like, oh my God, like, she is like an angel sent from heaven. Yeah, she is like I can't think of CCS without thinking of Sabrina. Like, she is just the halo of that school. But I met her. She had come to Dash for a college career day type of thing, and she brought Sandra with her, who is the chair of interior design. And I got to sit down and talk to them, and just like, I had such a moment where I was just like, when your heart just clicks for something, when like your mind just kind of switches, and I was like, yes, I played Halo 3 in CCS.
Andrew comes with the jokes always.
Yeah, so I was like, something just hit with me and something just switched, and I was like, you know what? I'm like, this seems right to me. It seems right to me, and I got a great scholarship, so it also helped. But it was good, and I felt being able to step out into a state such as Michigan that was so unfamiliar, that was so unreal to me, and leave that Miami lifestyle behind and walk into a atmosphere where I felt like I would be able to be fully dedicated to my craft really meant a lot to me. So walking in knowing there was an admissions person who really believed in me, walking into a school knowing that Sandra, the interior chair, like, really had hopes and was inspired by what I could bring to the department, like, was obviously extremely inspiring. So all of that to say, like, once I came down to all of my applications and all of my acceptances, when I looked at CCS, it just felt like a natural yes. And they had my yes quicker than anything. I actually was in Michigan when I got my admissions letter. Like, Sabrina literally handed it to me, and I was like, ah! So CCS was a great experience. And yeah, as much as I loved fashion, I was really interested to see like what that mentoring between those two women could bring to my life. And it's changed my life in the best way possible.
It's awesome. It's awesome. And I'm sure as much as you gained from CCS has equally gained as much from you, because I just think about the community of friends and fellow artists that were there while you were there. And I know you were involved in a lot of other people's work and projects and modeling, and like you were a huge part of the community when you were a student. So I'm going to take a break from my questions to see if we have any questions from our audience. So for those of you who are just tuning in, this is your chance to have your questions answered about the field of interior design, being a CCS student, or the amazing, mind-blowing to me now, world of color and materials design. So let's see if we have any questions from our audience. And I want to apologize to everyone. My daughter is crying in the background. My husband is supposed to be helping her, but I don't know what's going on. She's still crying.
It's okay. My dog's barking upstairs, and I can hear my 10-month-old like running across the upstairs. So I feel you.
10 months old. How many babies?
Just one right now, just
Just the
one.
one?
Yeah.
Yeah, same with me. And she is not happy. She has teeth coming in. All right. So
Same.
let's see. Any questions for Vanessa from our audience? And for those who aren't tuned in right now, but maybe watching the recording, know that you can always send questions later to us from the admissions team, and we'll be happy to answer them. But yeah, okay, I'm going to move on with my questions, which is fun for me. So what would you say is one thing that you learned or gained from CCS that's really changed or impacted your life?
I think one thing that really has stuck with me and I've learned even within my career, the design world is really, really small. And I mean really small. Like I don't want contamination is like a horrible word to use, but like the amount of times that designers switch and move and go from company to company and state to state, even country to country, like when you realize how many intersections you come between things and you like tie back into someone you knew before, into someone else you knew before, and all this jazz. It's I think CCS prepared me as a way to be like, what you present to the world is who you are. And you will be remembered for those things. You will be remembered for the smallest things that you probably didn't even know that you did. Be cautious of the work you release. Put your maximum effort into what you're presenting to the world, because that sticks with you. And attitude is everything. And Sandra and the interior design team were really good about instilling how we present, how we do things, what we bring to the table, of who we are and how we carry ourselves, because that stuff gets remembered.
Yeah.
So when you have one bad presentation, and unfortunately people remember it. If you half-assed a project, people remember it. There's always going to be something that you're being remembered for, whether even it's in high school, if it's in college, and that follows you all the way into your career. So you just
Yep.
want to make sure that whatever you're releasing is something that you're proud of, that you worked hard for, that you've stood behind. And CCS was really good about instilling that. And I still run into people, even like that I knew from CCS in the industry. I run into people that I met along my career, and everyone remembers. So yeah, I think it's just really important. And I think CCS, when CCS was really good about putting the pressure on us and making sure that like it was serious, because it's a competitive world, and they never made it seem like anything in life was going to be easy, and I appreciated that about it.
That's awesome. And that is so true. The CCS community is just a microcosm of what you'll see out there in the world. You will see these people again. You will see the people
Yeah.
you will see people again. And so that's a huge takeaway from the school. And on that note, as far as like that wisdom gained, is there anything that if you could go back and talk to your high school self that you would give yourself as advice as you're preparing to pursue your creative path?
I think it might be kind of like the same thing that maybe a couple of other people have said, but like, take things seriously. It's serious. When people tell you to focus on your future, like, it is a real thing. Like, it is not someone joking around saying that like, like things will come. Like, what's that saying? Good things come to those who
Oh,
wait. No, that's not true. Like, if you want stuff done, if you want to like have the career that you like hoped for, like, you need to bust your butt for it. It takes hard work, and it's not easy. You have to sacrifice some stuff. You have to sacrifice some of your social life. You have to sacrifice habits that have kept you in the same place time after time. So I would want to go back and tell my high school self, like, hey, your social life isn't that important right now. Like, your college that you're going to go into, focus on your applications. Your best friend is still going to be your best friend, and she is 16 years later. Like, you know
aw.
what I mean? So it's just like, you have to be focused on those things that matter for yourself. Like, keep it pushing, keep it working. No one's going to do it for you. My mom told me since I was 2 years old, depend on no one but yourself. That's changed now because I'm married. But like, but it's true. It's true. Like if you want the careers, if you want to be in, if you want that, you have to work for it and you have to sacrifice it. And sacrificing is not a negative thing when the outcome is your happiness and being in that position that you want to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's a
Is that
powerful
Christina?
insight.
Hi. Sorry, I
That's a
just saw some
powerful
people
insight.
join.
Yeah, I think that's an important lesson, especially because high school can be a time of like, I'm young, what does it matter? But I think that's important
Hmm.
what you just said as far as like sacrifice is not a bad thing if it's leading you to where you want to be for the majority of your life, right? Because,
Yeah.
those 4 years in high school or even the 8 years from high school to college is such a small sliver of the
Yeah.
majority of time in our life. I know in a different presentation, I did our Ikigai presentation. I'm like, your career is 80,000 hours of
Yeah.
your life. You might want
Yeah.
to focus on that, right?
You'll end up sacrificing more later on in your life than the simple sacrifice you would have had to have done 10 years prior.
Wow.
And that's just, I mean, that's my personal experience. I've seen it with myself, I've seen it with my husband, and I've seen it with a lot of people that I've gone to school with. Unfortunately, like you see the people who have succeeded and then you see the other people that haven't, and you see the pattern as to what happened. And ultimately at the end of, I don't want to say your life, that sounds really cryptic, but when you're looking back on your life, I think you want to look back on it and say that you did good and you did what you wanted, and things hopefully worked out the way you had planned and hoped that they would. And I think
Yeah.
that's all we can hope for sometimes.
And work for, aim
Hmm.
towards.
Exactly.
Well, you're a shining example of what it looks like to work hard, pursue your creative goals, and then make a difference in the world. Like really change the way that we interact with the objects and environments that we're around, right? The vehicles that we use. You are
Yeah.
a shining example of what it looks like to do that. So I want to thank you so, so,
I
so,
want to say
so much.
one thing because
Oh,
I have a
yes.
friend who just joined, and this really, hi Michelle, and this really adds to the interior design aspect of
Yeah.
things. So ultimately, at the end of the day, I think one of the most important things as designers and creatives that we can do is give back to our community and to give back to those in need. And we can't always rely on different organizations to do it. Like we have the power and we have the position to do those things ourselves. So I have a friend, Michelle, and we run an organization called Home Bless. And
Oh,
we basically go in and we renovate homes for people who were previously homeless, and we give them their dream spaces. So they go from being homeless, they're given a brand new apartment by homeless agencies, and we go in there and we bring them hope and we inspire them and we give
wow.
them the furniture and the decorations that they need to help with that change of life. And you can use your passion, you can use those things in your life that you're good at to give back to people in need. We do it with interior design. My husband does it with his paintings, and we know so many other creatives who are able to do that. So if you're looking for something to like burst out, if you're looking for something to change things around you, to change your community, just look at your own creative nature and say, what can I do? There's something out there that you can always do. It might not be serving food, or it might not just be, like donating money. Like use your creative nature to really go out there and change the world. And, I'm able to do that because of what I learned at CCS in doing interior design. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of add that little two
That's
cents.
that's amazing. I'm glad I did end the live without you saying that because that is super powerful. I mean, that's the power of creativity, because when you're full, when you are doing what you're supposed to be doing here, you have that much more to give, right? And I
Exactly.
think that's a beautiful note that creativity can be used to help others and should be used to help others.
Yeah.
And that's
Thank
amazing. I didn't know
you.
about. So Vanessa, I want to make sure that people can follow and learn more about the amazing world of interior design through you and your insights. Is there a place on Instagram or online that people can go and check you out, or your work, or your organization that you just mentioned?
Yes. So if everyone wants to go, and we can comment it down below, but at home_bless. So
Okay.
at
At home.
home_bless. You'll be able to see before and after pictures. You'll be able to hear the stories of the people who've been previously experiencing homelessness. You'll be able to know how to get involved and how to help out. So yeah, we would love to get your support. Yes, Michelle, thank you. She just tagged us right there. But
Awesome.
yeah,
Somebody, because I
that's
was like all over here trying to type it in. Awesome.
yeah.
You guys definitely go. I know I'm going to go follow and check that out. Please, everyone else, do the same, and see how the amazing Vanessa and her colleague are making a difference with their design. So
Thank
this has
you.
been amazing. I've learned so much, and been, as always, re-inspired by your amazing personality. I know there are students who are going to watch this and just be really motivated to pursue their path and potentially consider a career path that they didn't know about. So I want to thank you so much, Vanessa, for your time today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brandy. Oh, look at Pat. He just got on. You're
Yeah,
late, but I love
Pat.
you and I
I
miss
see
you.
a few alumni, Christian and Pat and
Yeah, but
Andrew, a few
Brandy,
folks
thank you
joined.
so much.
Yeah.
I'm like so happy to hear that you're involved in CCS and you bringing more life to that school. You were like the unofficial mascot like my years at like CCS. So I'm so happy to see that they have you and that you're able to bless them and be part of that. And just thank you so much for reaching out to me and letting me be part of this. I know interior design is like probably still the smallest little course at like CCS, but we matter.
You
We're
do.
doing
You
great things in the
definitely
world. So
do.
thank you so much.
Thank you, Vanessa. And everyone who's tuned in, thank you for watching. Those watching the recording, thanks for watching. And be sure to check back next week for our next CCS Alumni Live. Bye, everyone. Bye, Vanessa.
Bye.